Welcome everyone. Today I want to show you something extremely powerful, something very simple, but something that can completely transform the way you learn English. Many people hold the deep belief that successfully learning English requires studying for many hours every single day, buying expensive courses, or completely packing up their lives to live in another country. They often feel incredibly frustrated because they spend their valuable time trying to study complex grammar, rules, attempting to memorize endless lists of vocabulary, and watching many different educational videos. But when the crucial moment finally comes for them to actually speak, their mind suddenly becomes completely empty. They might understand some spoken English, but they simply cannot speak with confidence. They pause in the middle of sentences. They hesitate to find the right words, and they feel incredibly nervous. And slowly, because of this painful experience, they begin to think a very dangerous and discouraging thought. Maybe English is simply not for me. But the honest truth is completely different from what you might think. The core problem is absolutely not your natural intelligence. The problem is not a bad memory, and the problem is certainly not your native accent. The real, hidden problem is the complicated method you are using. Most people naturally try to learn English in a highly complicated and overwhelming way. They attempt to study entirely too many different things all at once. They open many heavy books and try to practice many different learning techniques at the same time. As a result, their overwhelmed brain simply becomes confused, and because of this deep mental confusion, they eventually lose their motivation to continue. However, successful language learning absolutely does not need to be a complicated process. In reality, the human brain is designed to learn a new language through very simple repetition, daily exposure to the language, and small, consistent daily actions. That is exactly why today I am going to show you a highly effective 30-minute daily English routine. This routine requires just 30 minutes of your day. It does not require 5 exhausting hours or even 3 hours, but just 30 deeply focused minutes every single day. If you bravely commit to practicing these specific steps daily, something truly amazing will slowly begin to happen in your mind. Little by little, your ears will naturally start understanding spoken English much more clearly. Your brain will start processing and thinking in English much faster. Your mouth will gradually begin forming complete English sentences naturally and without pain. And one beautiful day, you will suddenly realize something absolutely incredible. English is no longer a difficult burden for you. That is exactly why I want you to sit back and listen to this video very carefully, because every single step I am going to share with you today is wonderfully simple, highly practical, and incredibly powerful. This is not just academic theory, and this is certainly not a complicated grammar lesson. This is genuine real-world training for your brain and your mouth. And if you follow this routine every day, I promise you something wonderful. Your English will absolutely not stay the same. The very first step of our daily routine is dedicating exactly 5 minutes to train your ears through focused listening. Before you even try to speak English, before you try to memorize many complex words, and long before you worry about strict grammar rules, there is one fundamental skill that must come first. That absolutely essential skill is listening, because listening is the true foundation of every single language. To understand this deeply, simply think about how a little baby naturally learns a language. A baby definitely does not start their journey by studying heavy grammar books, and a baby certainly does not sit down to memorize long vocabulary lists. Instead of doing those frustrating things, the baby spends many quiet months simply listening carefully to the world. The baby listens to the gentle voices of their parents. The baby listens to environmental sounds, and the baby listens to everyday conversations going on around them. Slowly and beautifully, the young brain begins recognizing specific patterns. Spoken words start becoming familiar to the ear, and once strange sounds start making complete sense. It is only after many months of pure, dedicated listening that the baby finally starts speaking their very first words. Language learning always begins with the ears. If your ears are not properly trained first, your brain will always feel completely confused whenever you hear spoken English. This is exactly why the very first 5 minutes of your daily routine should always be dedicated exclusively to listening. Practice. But here is something incredibly important to remember, as many learners make a very stressful mistake during their daily listening practice. They desperately try to understand every single word they hear, and when they inevitably cannot understand something, they quickly become deeply frustrated. They frantically pause the video, they constantly rewind, they repeat the same audio again and again, and finally, they just feel exhausted and tired. But true listening training simply does not work like that. The ultimate goal of listening is absolutely not perfect understanding right away, but rather, the true goal is gentle familiarity. You are patiently teaching your brain to become entirely comfortable with the unique sound and rhythm of the English language. Think of it exactly like learning to appreciate a brand new piece of music. The very first time someone hears a new song, it might feel quite strange and unfamiliar to their ears, but after peacefully hearing that same song many times, the brain naturally begins to recognize the beautiful rhythm and the underlying melody. Language works in exactly the same way. The more spoken English your ears naturally hear, the more completely natural the English language becomes to your mind. So, during these peaceful 5 minutes, carefully choose a simple English audio track. For example, you can choose to listen to a short, relaxing English story, a helpful podcast specifically designed for learners, a simple, everyday conversation, or a clear English video where the people speak very clearly. The most important thing to look for is clarity and beautiful simplicity. You absolutely do not need incredibly fast English, and you do not need highly complicated English. You simply need clear, steady, and understandable English. Now, here is the absolutely correct way to practice during these precious 5 minutes. First, simply start the audio or video and just quietly listen. Do not pause the track, do not worry at all about any unknown words you encounter, and absolutely do not try to desperately translate everything in your tired mind. Just quietly listen and let the beautiful sound flow effortlessly into your ears. Your remarkable brain is constantly collecting valuable information, even when you do not consciously realize it. After patiently listening through once, you can choose to listen to it again, because the second time around, your brain will naturally understand much more. This happens because the human brain absolutely loves repetition. Every single time you hear the exact same sentence again, your brain becomes much more comfortable with it. Over time, your trained ears will gently begin recognizing important pronunciation patterns. For example, you will naturally start noticing exactly how certain words seamlessly connect together, how complete sentences beautifully rise and fall in pitch, and exactly how native speakers pronounce specific, tricky sounds. These tiny details are extremely important because natural speaking is absolutely not only about memorizing vocabulary, it is also deeply about mastering sound and rhythm. When your ears finally understand the unique rhythm of English, your mouth will naturally begin copying it without effort. This is exactly why dedicated listening is such a profoundly powerful exercise. It trains your brain very quietly, very gently, and completely naturally. You might incorrectly feel that absolutely nothing is happening in the very beginning, but deep inside your active brain, something very powerful is actually happening. Your brain is slowly building a massive mental library of English sounds, and every single sentence you hear becomes another valuable piece of that grand library. And one beautiful day when you finally start speaking, your brain will seamlessly use those carefully stored sounds to create perfect sentences automatically. This is precisely why people who simply listen to English regularly always begin speaking much more naturally. Their brain already instinctively knows exactly how English should sound. That is the great secret. Listening is absolutely not a passive activity. Listening is active brain training, and while 5 minutes every single day might seem very small to you, small daily actions absolutely create massive, undeniable results over time. If you dedicate yourself to listening to English for just 5 focused minutes every day, that quickly becomes 35 minutes every single week, more than 2 full hours every month, and more than 24 solid hours every single year. That is a staggering 24 hours of pure, focused listening training. Now imagine clearly if you truly focus your mind during those exact 5 minutes every single day. Your ears will steadily become much sharper, your overall understanding will drastically improve, and slowly, English will completely stop sounding like a strange foreign language. It will miraculously start sounding deeply familiar. And that exact moment is when your real, undeniable progress truly begins. So always remember this one simple golden rule. Before you ever try to train your mouth to speak English, you must first train your ears to hear English. Your ears are the ultimate gateway to true fluency, and this incredibly simple 5-minute daily habit can begin changing your English much faster than you ever expected. The next step in your daily routine is dedicating exactly 5 minutes to read out loud. This means you are absolutely not reading silently, and you are not just reading quietly inside your mind, but you are actually reading using your physical voice. Many dedicated English learners read a lot of material every single day. They regularly read thick books, interesting articles, social media captions, and video subtitles. But the hidden problem is that they read absolutely everything silently inside their mind. Their eyes quickly move across the written words, and their brain perfectly understands the meaning. But their physical mouth never actually practices speaking those words out loud. And because of this silent habit, something very strange and frustrating happens. Their brain fully knows English, but their mouth simply cannot speak English. When they finally try to speak to someone, their mouth feels incredibly slow. Finding the right words feels extremely difficult, and complete sentences simply do not come out smoothly. Why exactly does this frustrating block happen? Because speaking a language is deeply a physical skill. Just like learning to play a beautiful musical instrument, speaking successfully requires actual muscle training. When you speak, your tongue moves, your lips move, your jaw moves, and your entire breathing pattern changes. Your mouth is actually doing real physical work. If you never actively train those specific muscles, your mouth will never become truly comfortable speaking English. That is exactly why the simple act of reading out loud is so incredibly powerful. When you read aloud, 3 very important things beautifully happen at the exact same time. First, your eyes physically see the written words. Second, your brain rapidly processes the meaning of those words. Third, your mouth physically produces the spoken sound. This amazing process creates a highly powerful neural connection between reading, thinking, and speaking. Your brain actively begins to learn exactly how English looks, how it sounds, and how it physically feels all at the exact same time. And this is exactly how a new language eventually becomes completely natural to you. Now, let us talk carefully about how to perform this exercise correctly. During these focused 5 minutes, choose a very short and simple English paragraph. It could be a short story, a small news article, a single paragraph from a book, a script from a video, or even just a page from something you truly enjoy reading. The most important thing is that the language should be very clear and not extremely difficult. You are absolutely not trying to challenge your brain with highly complicated vocabulary during this step. Instead, you are patiently training your mouth to move comfortably in English. When you start reading, you must do something very important. Read slowly. Many learners mistakenly think they should read incredibly fast just to sound fluent, but fast speed is absolutely not the goal in the beginning. Crystal clarity is the true goal. When you force yourself to read slowly, your mouth actually has the proper time to form the sounds correctly. Your brain also has the necessary time to fully understand the deep structure of the sentence. Slow, deliberate reading builds incredibly strong foundations for your future fluency. So, begin reading your chosen paragraph clearly and very slowly. For example, imagine you are reading a sentence like this. Success is built through small daily actions. Do not rush through it. Say it clearly and purposefully. Feel every single word. Feel exactly how your mouth moves, and feel how your tongue gently touches the different parts of your mouth. This physical awareness is extremely powerful because you are actively teaching your mouth exactly how English feels when it is spoken naturally. Another incredibly important thing to remember is to not worry about having a perfect accent. Many learners become overly nervous about their pronunciation, believing that their accent must sound exactly like a native speaker. But the goal of this exercise is absolutely not perfection. The true goal is comfort and clarity. When you practice reading aloud daily, your pronunciation will naturally and beautifully improve over time. Your brain will steadily start recognizing correct sound patterns. Your mouth will slowly become much more flexible, and your inner confidence will grow massively. This amazing habit also powerfully helps remove the deep fear of speaking. Many learners are terrified to speak English in front of other people. Their heart beats faster, their mind suddenly becomes completely blank, and they worry endlessly about making embarrassing mistakes. But when you bravely read aloud every single day, your mouth becomes deeply used to producing English sentences. Your brain completely stops feeling that English speaking is something strange, terrifying, or uncomfortable, and it beautifully begins to feel completely normal. Think about this carefully. If your mouth practices English every single day, even for just 5 minutes, speaking English will slowly stop feeling scary. Your brain will confidently say, "This is something I do every day. This is normal." That simple, quiet change in your mind is extremely powerful. To make this even stronger, read the exact same paragraph 2 or 3 times. The first time you read it, focus purely on understanding the meaning of the sentence. The second time, focus your attention on achieving clear pronunciation. The third time, gently try to read it much more naturally and smoothly. Each repetition makes the sentence significantly easier for your brain to process, because repetition is the ultimate secret weapon of successful language learning. Every single time you repeat something aloud, your brain strengthens the deep neural connection related to that sentence, making it easier and much faster the next time. Now, imagine doing this for just 5 minutes every single day. 5 minutes might look very small, but daily consistency changes absolutely everything. 5 minutes every day quickly becomes 35 minutes every week, more than 2 hours every month, and more than 24 hours of pure speaking practice every single year. Remember something deeply important. Many learners spend long years studying English, but they almost never actually speak it. But if you read aloud daily, your mouth is physically speaking English every single day. That means your physical speaking muscles are getting stronger every day, your pronunciation is improving every day, and your confidence is growing every day. Slowly, something beautiful begins to happen. You completely stop translating sentences in your mind. Instead, you start feeling the natural flow of English, and sentences begin to sound completely natural to your ears. Your brain begins recognizing complex patterns, like exactly how English sentences are built, how deep ideas connect, and how words flow beautifully together. This is the true beginning of real fluency. True fluency absolutely does not come from memorizing thousands of isolated words. Fluency comes from daily active interaction with the language, and reading aloud is simply one of the easiest and most powerful ways to create that vital interaction. If you want your brain to merely know English, you must read silently. But if you want your mouth to truly speak English, you must read out loud. Just 5 minutes every day. A clear voice, slow reading, and daily repetition. These small actions may look simple, but they are patiently building something extremely powerful inside you. They are building a stronger voice, a much more confident mind, and a bright future where English speaking becomes completely natural for you. And when you combine this step with the other steps of this routine, you are not just learning English, you are actively training your brain, your ears, and your mouth all together. That is how real, lasting transformation happens. The third step in your daily routine is dedicating exactly 5 minutes to learn vocabulary in context. Vocabulary is absolutely essential because without words, you simply cannot express your deep ideas, you cannot describe your complex feelings, and you cannot communicate clearly with the people around you. But here is something very interesting and quite surprising. Most dedicated English learners unfortunately learn vocabulary in the completely wrong way. They open a heavy notebook, they write a very long list of words, and they desperately try to memorize 20, 30, or sometimes even 50 completely new words in a single day. For example, they simply write opportunity and its meaning, confidence and its meaning, or success and its meaning. They repeat these isolated words again and again in their mind. But after just a few days of this exhausting effort, something incredibly frustrating happens. They completely forget most of those words, and even worse, when the real moment arrives to actually speak English, those memorized words simply do not come to their mind. Why does this painful block happen? It happens because the human brain simply does not remember words very well when they are completely isolated and alone. The brain is designed to remember words much better when they are directly connected to real sentences and real meaningful ideas. That is exactly why this specific step is called learning vocabulary in context. Context simply means the real-life situation or the complete sentence where the word is naturally used. Instead of learning a single word all alone, you learn it safely inside a complete sentence. This one simple change makes a massive, life-changing difference. Let me show you exactly why. Imagine you want to learn the word opportunity. If you only memorize the dictionary meaning, your brain might remember it for a very short time, but it will absolutely not know how to use it naturally in conversation. But if you learn the word inside a sentence like this job is a great opportunity for my future. Now your brain understands so much more. You clearly understand how the word perfectly fits in a sentence, exactly how the word sounds when spoken aloud, and how the word beautifully expresses a real idea. This is exactly how vocabulary suddenly becomes alive in your brain. During these 5 focused minutes, the goal is actually very simple. Do not try to learn many words at once. Instead, carefully choose 3 to 5 new words to learn deeply. That is more than enough. Learning fewer words very deeply is far more powerful than learning many words very quickly. When you choose a word, do 3 specific things. First, fully understand the meaning. Second, create a real sentence using that word. And third, speak that sentence out loud. Imagine your chosen word is improve. First, you understand that improve simply means to make something better. Now, carefully create a sentence. I want to improve my English every day. Finally, confidently read that sentence aloud. When you do this, your active brain beautifully learns the meaning, the structure, and the sound, all at the exact same time, which naturally creates a much stronger memory. Here's another incredibly powerful trick. Always try to connect the new word directly to your own personal life. The human brain remembers information much better when it is deeply personal and emotional. If your word is goal, instead of creating a random, boring sentence, say something deeply real to you. Say, my goal is to speak English confidently, or my goal is to become fluent in English this year. Now the vocabulary word becomes intimately connected to your actual life and your true emotions. Your brain no longer sees it as just another random word to memorize. It sees it as something deeply meaningful, and meaningful information naturally stays much longer in your memory. Many learners also mistakenly focus only on extremely difficult vocabulary because they believe advanced words will magically make them sound highly intelligent. But true fluency is absolutely not about using highly complicated words. Fluency is about using simple words beautifully, naturally, and quickly. Most real-life conversations in English use very simple vocabulary words like think, learn, try, build, create, change, and understand. These common words appear again and again in real conversations, and if you master these types of words deeply, your English will quickly become much more natural. Now imagine doing this simple step every single day. 5 minutes, just 3 to 5 new words. Every single day, your working vocabulary slowly grows a little bit. It may not feel highly dramatic in just one day, but language learning is absolutely not about one day. It is about consistent, beautiful growth over a long period of time. If you deeply learn just 5 words every day, that quickly becomes 35 words every single week, more than 150 words every month, and nearly 2,000 words in just 1 year. And these are not just memorized words. These are words you actually understand, perfectly pronounce, and use confidently in full sentences. To make this even stronger, briefly review the words later in the evening. Just speaking them out loud again helps your brain massively reinforce the memory. Every time you repeat a word in a meaningful sentence, your brain strengthens that connection until the word becomes completely automatic. You will not need to desperately search for the word. It will appear naturally the moment you need it. That is the real goal, not just to know many words in theory, but to truly own them. When you truly own a word, you can use it easily, understand it instantly when you hear it, and recognize it quickly when you read it. Do not learn vocabulary like a dry dictionary. Learn vocabulary exactly like a speaker with words safely inside sentences connected to your life and spoken out loud. When you practice like this, your sentences become richer, your deep thoughts become clearer, your confidence starts to grow and, slowly, your brain actually starts thinking directly in English instead of constantly translating. That is the beautiful moment when English truly starts becoming your own language. The fourth step in your daily routine is dedicating exactly 5 minutes to a deeply personal practice. This particular step is incredibly simple, but it holds the remarkable power to completely change the entire way you practice your English. This transformative step is simply called speak to yourself. At first glance, this idea might sound quite strange or uncomfortable to some people. Many English learners firmly think that speaking practice must absolutely always happen with another person, such as a professional teacher, a native-speaking friend, or a dedicated language partner. They deeply believe that without another person present, they simply cannot practice speaking at all. In fact, one of the biggest, most frustrating problems English learners face is endlessly waiting for the perfect speaking partner to magically appear. They constantly tell themselves, "I will finally practice when I find someone to speak with." But days pass, weeks pass, and sometimes even long years pass by, and they still do not actually practice speaking regularly. Why does this happen? Because the perfect opportunity to speak with a native speaker simply does not appear every single day. However, your personal English progress should absolutely never depend on someone else's unpredictable availability. You desperately need a reliable method that easily allows you to practice speaking every single day, anytime and anywhere. And that powerful independent method is speaking to yourself. Now, please listen carefully because this specific step is extremely powerful. When you intentionally speak to yourself in English, you are actively training your brain to form complete sentences in real time. You are essentially teaching your brain exactly how to take abstract ideas from your mind and seamlessly express them using English words. This is exactly the same complex process that happens during real live conversations. When someone asks you a question, your brain must quickly organize the right words, build a logical sentence, and speak it out loud. If you never regularly practice this internal process, your brain will inevitably feel very slow and stuck when speaking. That is exactly why many frustrated learners say heartbreaking things like, "I understand English perfectly, but I simply cannot speak." The fundamental reason is actually very simple. Understanding English and actively producing English are two completely different cognitive skills. Listening beautifully trains your ears, and reading effectively trains your understanding. But speaking actively trains your brain to produce language, and that crucial production skill desperately needs daily, consistent practice. This is exactly where speaking to yourself becomes incredibly useful and freeing. During these quiet 5 minutes, you simply talk about anything at all. It absolutely does not need to be a complicated or philosophical topic. You can easily speak about your daily routine, you can speak about your future plans, or you can speak about your biggest dreams. You can even just describe the simple objects you see around you in the room. The actual topic does not matter at all. What truly matters is that your brain is actively creating English sentences. Let us look at a very simple example. Imagine you start speaking quietly about your morning. You might say, "Today I woke up at 7 in the morning. I felt a little tired, but I decided to start my day with energy. After waking up, I drank a glass of water and checked my plans for the day." These sentences absolutely do not need to be grammatically perfect. They only need to be freely expressed. When you consistently speak like this, something profoundly powerful happens inside your brain. Your brain actively begins building new communication pathways, and it beautifully learns exactly how to connect your abstract thoughts directly with English words. Now, here is something extremely important to understand. Absolutely do not worry about making mistakes during this private exercise. Mistakes are absolutely not the enemy. In fact, mistakes are a completely natural and necessary part of language learning. When a young child learns to speak their very first language, they make thousands upon thousands of mistakes. But they happily continue speaking anyway, and because they bravely continue speaking, their developing brain gradually improves. Language learning works in exactly the same beautiful way for adults. The ultimate goal is not perfect grammar. The ultimate goal is clear, effective communication. If you stubbornly wait until your grammar is 100% perfect before you finally start speaking, you might sadly wait forever. But if you bravely begin speaking right now, your remarkable brain will slowly and naturally correct itself over time. This is exactly why speaking to yourself is so incredibly powerful. It completely removes the paralyzing fear of judgment. There is no strict teacher correcting your every word, and there is no critical audience watching you. There is only you, your thoughts, and your voice. And because of that complete privacy, your mind feels entirely relaxed. And when the mind is relaxed, true learning becomes so much faster. Speaking to yourself also beautifully helps you discover your hidden vocabulary gaps. Sometimes, when you try to express a specific idea, you suddenly realize that you know exactly what you want to say, but you simply do not know the correct English word. This momentary pause is extremely valuable because it shows you exactly which specific vocabulary you actually need to learn. Imagine you eagerly want to say, "I cleaned my room," but suddenly you completely forget the word cleaned. Now your brain becomes highly curious, and later you can quickly check the word and actively learn it. The very next time you speak, that exact word effortlessly becomes a permanent part of your vocabulary. This organic process helps your English grow completely naturally because your vocabulary becomes directly connected to your real communication needs, which is much more powerful than memorizing random lists of words. If you ever feel shy speaking loudly, you can always start by speaking very softly. The only important thing is that your mouth is physically moving and your brain is actively forming sentences. Over time, your inner confidence will inevitably grow. Your physical voice will become much stronger, and eventually, speaking English out loud will feel completely normal. You can even use simple daily prompts to help spark your speaking practice. You can answer questions like, "What did I do today?" "What are my goals this week?" Or, "Where do I want to travel one day?" These engaging questions give your active brain wonderful ideas to talk about, and the more diverse ideas you express, the more your actual speaking ability rapidly grows. Now imagine practicing this specific habit for just 5 minutes every single day. It might feel very small at first, but 5 minutes daily quickly becomes 35 minutes every week, more than 2 hours every month, and more than 24 hours of pure speaking practice every single year. Many learners study English for long years without ever speaking regularly. But if you independently speak to yourself every single day, your brain will receive incredibly consistent speaking training. And that daily consistency changes absolutely everything. Slowly, your spoken sentences will become beautifully longer. Your working vocabulary will massively expand, and your complex thoughts will move much faster in English. And one beautiful day, you will notice something truly surprising. You will begin effortlessly thinking in English without even trying. Your brain will naturally organize your ideas directly in English, which is one of the absolute biggest signs that true fluency is developing. And it all beautifully begins with a very simple daily habit. Just 5 minutes of talking to yourself, actively training your brain, building real confidence, and creating English sentences every single day. These 5 minutes may look incredibly simple, but they are quietly and powerfully transforming your absolute ability to communicate. When this independent step smoothly combines with active listening, reading aloud, and vocabulary learning, your entire English system becomes incredibly strong and perfectly balanced. Your ears understand, your mouth speaks, and your brain naturally thinks in English. That is exactly how real, lasting fluency beautifully grows. The fifth step in your daily English routine is dedicating exactly 5 minutes to shadowing practice. If you truly understand and deeply practice this specific step every single day, it has the remarkable power to dramatically improve your pronunciation, your speaking speed, your natural rhythm, and your overall confidence. Many dedicated English learners desperately want to sound much more natural when they finally speak to others. They deeply want their sentences to beautifully flow smoothly, and they want their pronunciation to become significantly clearer. However, most learners unfortunately speak English only in their own rigid way. They slowly create sentences inside their mind and then say them very slowly out loud. Because of this highly calculated process, their actual speaking rhythm simply does not match the beautiful, natural flow of native English. This is exactly where the technique of shadowing becomes extremely powerful. Shadowing simply means listening to a spoken sentence and repeating it absolutely immediately. It is almost exactly like creating an echo. You absolutely do not wait, and you do not Pause the audio for a long time. The moment you hear the sentence, you actively repeat it right away. You're basically shadowing the speaker exactly like a physical shadow faithfully follows a walking person. That beautiful concept is exactly why this transformative technique is called shadowing. Now, let us deeply understand exactly why this specific method is so highly effective. When you simply listen to a native speaker, your brain silently receives wonderful information about the precise pronunciation of words, the melodic rhythm of the sentence, the natural speed of speech, and the unique way certain words connect together. But when you simply listen quietly, your brain remains in a passive state. Shadowing changes this completely. When you force yourself to repeat the sentence immediately, your brain must actively process the sound and brilliantly reproduce it instantly. This intense process activates multiple cognitive skills all at the exact same time, including listening, speaking, pronunciation, deep memory, and sharp focus. Your brain becomes very active, and that high level of activity creates very strong, permanent learning. Now let us see exactly how to practice shadowing correctly during these 5 minutes. First, carefully choose a short audio or video clip with very clear English. This excellent material could be a short speech, a helpful podcast for learners, a YouTube video where the speaker talks clearly, or a short English story. The most important thing is that the speaker's voice should be crystal clear and absolutely not extremely fast. Now, simply listen to the very first sentence. Imagine the speaker clearly says, "Success requires patience and consistent effort." As soon as you hear the sentence, actively repeat it immediately. Success requires patience and consistent effort. Try your absolute best to carefully copy the exact same tone, the beautiful rhythm, and the precise pronunciation. Do not worry at all if it is not completely perfect in the very beginning, because the true goal is simply imitation. Think deeply about how young children naturally learn a language. Children perfectly copy exactly what they hear, and they beautifully imitate their parents' voices. Over time, their pronunciation naturally becomes more authentic because they are constantly copying real, flowing speech. Shadowing works in exactly the same beautiful way. You are patiently training your physical mouth to imitate natural English sound patterns. Now, here is something incredibly important. Do not focus your attention only on individual words. Instead, focus heavily on the melodic flow of the entire sentence. English is absolutely not spoken word by word like a stiff robot. Instead, words smoothly connect together. Native speakers very often say want to, so it becomes wanna, going to beautifully becomes gonna, and did you blends into did you. These tiny connections are exactly what make English sound incredibly natural and beautifully smooth. Shadowing gently helps your brain successfully recognize and reproduce these hidden patterns. Another highly important tip is to practice this with high energy and deep attention. Do not repeat the sentences lazily. Speak very clearly and confidently. Even if you are practicing completely alone in your room, confidently speak, as if you are actually communicating with someone. Your brain naturally learns much better when your physical voice is highly active and expressive. During these 5 minutes, you can certainly repeat the exact same sentence 2 or 3 times. For example, carefully listen to the sentence, repeat it once, listen to it again, and then repeat it again with even better pronunciation. Each mindful repetition drastically improves your accuracy, and your mouth becomes significantly more comfortable producing the physical sound. Your brain becomes beautifully familiar with the entire sentence structure. Now imagine practicing this powerful shadowing technique every single day. 5 minutes daily might not initially look like a huge physical effort, but daily consistency creates incredibly powerful results. Every single day, your pronunciation slowly becomes a little clearer. Every single day, your speaking rhythm beautifully becomes a little smoother. Every single day, your inner confidence naturally becomes a little stronger. After several weeks of dedicated practice, you will inevitably notice something highly surprising. Your sentences will brilliantly begin to flow much more naturally. You will confidently speak with much better timing and a beautiful rhythm. Your brain will automatically start copying the complex patterns it has heard many times, and that is exactly how natural speech develops. Shadowing is also extremely powerful for massively improving your listening speed. When you repeat sentences very quickly, your brain learns to actively process English much faster. your mental reaction time becomes significantly shorter, which directly helps you understand real, fast-paced conversations much more easily. Now let us deeply imagine exactly what happens after several months of practicing shadowing. Your ears are beautifully trained through listening. Your mouth is physically trained through reading aloud. Your vocabulary is constantly growing through contextual learning. Your brain is rapidly forming sentences through speaking practice, and shadowing is actively helping your pronunciation and rhythm become highly natural. All of these critical skills working together create a completely unified English learning system. That is exactly why this routine is so incredibly powerful. Each individual step beautifully supports the other. Listening trains your ears, reading trains your mouth, vocabulary trains your word bank, speaking trains your communication ability, and shadowing perfectly trains your natural speaking rhythm. When these beautiful skills grow together, your English begins to change dramatically. And the absolute most beautiful part is this: you are absolutely not studying English in a stressful, complicated way. You are actually practicing English in a completely natural way, just exactly like the beautiful way language is meant to be learned. Small daily habits, clear vocal repetition, and highly focused practice. That is exactly how true fluency is built. It is not built in one single day, but slowly, day by day. And these simple 5 minutes of shadowing are quietly and patiently building something extremely powerful inside you. A much stronger accent, a brilliantly clearer voice, and a gorgeous speaking style that sounds more authentic and natural every single day. The final dedicated step in your daily English routine is spending exactly 5 minutes to deeply practice thinking in English. This is the incredibly vital step that helps English finally move away from your notebook and directly into your active mind. This specific practice is exactly what helps you successfully stop depending on slow mental translation every single second. To many people, this might initially sound like a very small or insignificant habit. However, please do not underestimate it, because this one simple habit can quietly and permanently change the entire way your brain uses the English language. Consider this: many dedicated learners spend long months and sometimes even years learning English words, memorizing grammar rules, and reading complex sentences. They diligently listen, they read, they memorize, and they constantly repeat. But remarkably, even after all of that hard work, they still deeply struggle when the moment comes to finally speak. Why does this happen? It happens because inside their mind, their fundamental processing is still incredibly slow. First, they naturally think of the idea in their own native language. Then, they desperately try to translate that specific thought into English. After that, they pause to mentally check if the grammar is perfectly correct. They worry if the sentence sounds strange to others. They become incredibly nervous, and finally, they just stop speaking altogether. This exhausting process is exactly why so many frustrated learners confidently say, "I completely know English, but I simply cannot speak fast," or "I understand English, but when I speak, I pause entirely too much." The real problem in these moments is absolutely not a lack of vocabulary. The true hidden problem is that their brain is still heavily working through direct translation. And translation is a very, very slow process. Imagine you simply want to say something incredibly basic, like, "I am feeling tired today." Instead of thinking directly in English, your brain first creates the complete thought in your own language. Then it searches your memory for the correct English words. Then it checks the grammatical structure of the sentence, and only then does it successfully send the sentence to your mouth. That entire translation process takes way too much valuable time. And because it takes so much time, your resulting speech becomes slow, broken, and highly stressful. But truly fluent speakers do something completely different. They absolutely do not build every single spoken sentence through slow translation. Instead, they think much more directly in English. Because the mental distance between their internal thought and their external speech is so much smaller, their spoken words naturally feel significantly faster and much more authentic. Thinking in English simply means using the English language inside your own mind for your very small, normal, daily thoughts. It absolutely does not mean that you must suddenly think about every complex thing in deep, perfect English, starting from today. No. Forcing that would be entirely too difficult and incredibly stressful for your mind. Thinking in English always starts very small, very simple, and very natural. It beautifully begins with tiny, everyday thoughts like, I am hungry, I need water, or this room is very quiet. From the exact moment you wake up in the morning until the quiet moment you fall asleep at night, your beautiful mind is always actively talking, constantly describing the world, quietly reacting, thoughtfully planning, carefully remembering, and vividly imagining. Your mind is incredibly active all day long. Now imagine something truly powerful. What if just some of those hundreds of daily thoughts started naturally happening in English? Not all of them, but just some of them. Then, little by little, English would completely stop being only a boring study subject. It would beautifully start becoming a permanent part of your rich inner life. That is the magnificent turning point. That is precisely when the new language actually starts entering your core identity. When you think in English, you are doing highly private practice safely inside your own mind. Absolutely no one can see it. No one can harshly judge it, and no one can rudely interrupt it. And because of that perfect safety, you can practice it anytime and anywhere. You can easily practice while quietly brushing your teeth, while taking a peaceful walk, while cooking a delicious meal, or while sitting patiently on a crowded bus. One of the biggest mistakes eager learners make is hearing the instruction to think in English and immediately trying to force big, highly advanced thoughts. For example, they try to think in long, incredibly complicated paragraphs on their very first day. Then they quickly get mentally tired. They get deeply frustrated. They wrongly feel stupid, and they completely stop the habit. Please do not do that. Start very small with very easy thoughts. When you eat, simply think, this food is hot, or this tastes very good. When you go outside, think, the weather is very nice today, or the street is crowded. These are incredibly simple thoughts, but they are perfectly real. And real, authentic thoughts are the absolute best material for true learning because your brain remembers language so much better when it is directly connected to real life. When you start this beautiful habit, please do not stop every single second to critically check your grammar. Do not make your own beautiful mind a strict prison, and absolutely do not turn your private thoughts into a stressful exam. The ultimate goal is not to build perfect grammar in every single mental sentence, but simply to make English move inside your mind much more freely. If your very first inner thought is broken, that is completely okay. Maybe at first you awkwardly think, I go market later. It is definitely not perfect, but it is still incredible progress. Why? Because your brain is actively trying to use English that truly matters to you. Then slowly, with more listening, reading, and repetition, your brain naturally improves the sentence until it beautifully becomes, I will go to the market later. That is exactly how real growth happens, not through paralyzing fear or strict perfectionism, but through consistent use. Always remember this. Broken English in active practice is infinitely better than perfect English that never ever comes out of your mouth. And that absolutely includes your private inner thoughts too. During these 5 minutes, choose one part of your current life and just thoughtfully think about it in English. You could choose your immediate plans for tomorrow, thinking, tomorrow, I want to wake up early. I need to finish my work. You are not speaking aloud in this step. You are quietly training your inner voice and teaching your mind to confidently use English as an actual working language. One of the absolute easiest and most effective ways to successfully build this incredible habit is simply to describe exactly what you physically see all around you. This beautiful exercise is incredibly simple, yet it is deeply powerful. Look carefully around your quiet room and purposefully think to yourself, the bed is not clean. My phone is on the table. The light is too bright, or this wall is white. Now imagine doing this specific exercise every single day. Suddenly and beautifully, your immediate environment completely becomes your own private English classroom. Your ordinary daily life wonderfully becomes your constant English practice. Your physical room naturally teaches you important nouns. Your daily routine naturally teaches you active verbs, and your deep personal emotions naturally teach you descriptive feeling words. Your exciting future plans perfectly teach you the future tense, while your fondest memories beautifully teach you the past tense. Absolutely everything around you suddenly becomes incredibly useful for your learning journey. That is truly one of the most beautiful and remarkable things about thinking directly in English. It completely turns ordinary, everyday life into powerful, continuous language training. This next part is also very powerful. Many dedicated learners can successfully say very basic things in English, but they simply cannot express their deep inner feelings easily. Purposefully thinking in English can absolutely help completely change that painful limitation. When you feel a strong emotion, actively try to name it directly in English. For example, quietly tell yourself, I feel nervous, I feel calm today, I am disappointed, or I feel highly motivated. You can boldly think, I feel proud of myself, I feel tired, but I want to continue, or I am deeply frustrated, but I will not quit. This specific kind of internal thinking is very deep and incredibly useful because real, natural language is absolutely not only about physical objects and physical actions. Real language is also deeply about human emotions, and when you finally learn how to beautifully describe your complex emotions in English, your personal connection to the language naturally becomes much more intimate and much more real. English beautifully stops being just a dry tool for academic study. It powerfully starts becoming a living tool for true self-expression. That is the exact beautiful moment when your fluency actually begins to feel completely alive. Another highly powerful daily exercise is to intentionally think about your biggest life goals in English. This is especially useful because your personal goals naturally carry immense emotion, burning desire, and deep meaning. For example, confidently think to yourself, I want to speak English confidently. I want to become much more disciplined, or I want to build a vastly better future. When you actively think about your bright future in English, your personal motivation and your daily language practice beautifully come together, and that powerful combination naturally creates a much stronger memory. The human brain simply remembers highly emotional language much more deeply. Let us talk very clearly about the absolute biggest benefit of this entire process. Thinking directly in English powerfully helps your physical speaking become significantly faster. Why does this happen? Because when you already naturally think in English, your busy brain absolutely does not need to constantly translate every single sentence before speaking. The mental distance between your internal thought and your external speech beautifully becomes much smaller. That directly means less awkward delay, less painful hesitation, far less internal confusion, and significantly less fear. Your brain simply becomes much more ready. This is the exact reason why some dedicated learners suddenly feel a massive breakthrough after many months of quiet practice. They joyfully start saying things like, I do not know what happened, but now English comes faster. What truly happened is that their brain simply became much more familiar with actually living in English. Please be completely honest with yourself. In the very beginning, attempting to think in English may feel incredibly slow and highly unnatural to you. You may not know enough vocabulary words. You may quickly feel mentally tired, and you may constantly keep falling back into the comfortable safety of your own native language. Please know that this is completely normal, very normal. Absolutely do not see that natural struggle as a failure. Instead, proudly see it as essential mental training. When you go to a physical gym for the very first time, your muscles naturally feel very weak. That absolutely does not mean the exercise does not work. It simply means your physical body is actively adapting. The exact same powerful truth applies here. Your amazing brain is actively adapting to a completely new way of operating, and that process takes genuine time. So please be incredibly patient with yourself. Do not aggressively attack yourself, and do not say, I can't do this. Instead, calmly say, this feels very difficult right now, but my brain is actively learning. That specific positive mindset truly matters because true fluency is absolutely not built by people who never struggle. True fluency is beautifully built by brave people who keep going even when the struggle feels incredibly uncomfortable. If you want this mental step to become significantly easier for your brain, simply use basic, simple sentence patterns repeatedly every single day. For example, start with incredibly simple foundational phrases like I am, I feel, I need, I want, I like, I don't like, I have. 2. I should, I will, today I, tomorrow I, and yesterday I. Why is this so incredibly helpful? Because a huge, beautiful part of your ordinary daily life can absolutely be expressed through these simple patterns. For instance, you can simply think, I am tired. Or you can think, I feel hopeful. I need rest. I want progress. I like this lesson. I don't like wasting time. You can gently remind yourself, I have to stay focused. I should practice more. I will improve. Today I learned something useful. You can confidently plan your future by thinking, tomorrow I will try again. Or reflect by saying, yesterday I felt discouraged. Simple, repeatable patterns gracefully give you a highly reliable structure, and having a reliable structure absolutely reduces your internal fear. Once you deeply know a few strong foundational patterns, your amazing brain can effortlessly create hundreds of highly useful thoughts. That is exactly how simple English becomes powerful English. This quiet habit is also incredibly valuable because it beautifully makes you entirely less dependent on outside help. A teacher can certainly help you. A video can definitely help you, and a book can absolutely help you. But this quiet habit gives you something completely special. It gives you ultimate, private control over your own personal growth. No matter where you are in the world, you can comfortably practice. No matter how incredibly busy your life becomes, you can practice. No matter whether you have a speaking partner or not, you can actively practice. This beautifully makes your learning infinitely stronger because your English progress is absolutely not always desperately waiting for the perfect time, the perfect teacher, or the perfect situation. Now your brilliant mind itself becomes a permanent part of the daily training, which is incredibly powerful. Now let us look proudly at the full, beautiful routine you have carefully built. You gently trained your ears through dedicated listening. You actively trained your physical mouth through reading aloud. You massively trained your word bank through learning vocabulary in context. You trained your essential sentence-building ability through bravely speaking to yourself. You beautifully trained your rhythm and pronunciation through shadowing practice. And now, through carefully thinking directly in English, you are actively training your entire inner world. This complete, unified system is exactly why this routine is so undeniably powerful. It does not train only one single part of English. It powerfully trains the whole interconnected system. Your ears, your mouth, your deep memory, your inner confidence, your sentence flow, and your quiet inner voice. That is exactly why this routine can absolutely create real, lasting change if you do it daily. It is not because it is highly complicated, but because it is completely whole and complete. Fluency is absolutely not only about academically knowing English. Fluency is beautifully about becoming entirely comfortable living through English, hearing it, reading it, speaking it, using it, feeling it, and thinking directly through it. That is the profound, deeper shift in your mind. At first, you simply borrow English for academic study, but much later, you beautifully begin using English for your real life. And that profound shift changes absolutely everything. So if you truly, deeply want to grow, please do not ignore these simple steps. English beautifully stops feeling like a frustrating, impossible wall. It proudly starts feeling exactly like an open, welcoming path. It completely stops feeling like pressure, and it starts feeling like a beautiful possibility. English completely stops feeling like a boring subject you are exhaustingly chasing, and it wonderfully starts feeling like a strong, confident voice you are actively building. So, from this exact day forward, please do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not wait until you know every single word in the dictionary. Do not stubbornly wait until you feel completely and perfectly ready. Start right now with one small, quiet thought, then another, and then another. Say confidently inside your own mind, I can do this. I am improving. I am not too late. I will keep going. My English is naturally growing every single day. I may be slow today, but I will be significantly stronger tomorrow. I will absolutely not give up on myself because this is exactly how true, lasting transformation really happens. It absolutely does not happen in one dramatic, magical moment, but rather in small, consistent daily moments that most people completely ignore. A few quiet minutes of listening, a few minutes of reading, a few minutes of vocabulary, speaking, shadowing, and thinking, entirely in English. And then one beautiful day, after all those seemingly small moments, you simply open your mouth and the correct words come out much more easily. You suddenly hear spoken English and it feels incredibly familiar. You think about your beautiful day and English naturally begins to appear. And that is exactly when you realize your English definitely did not magically change in one single night. It changed because you bravely changed your daily routine. That is the undeniable power of consistency. That is the beautiful power of small habits. And that is the absolute power of refusing to quit. So keep practicing, keep showing up for yourself, and keep believing, because your English can definitely improve much more than you currently think. The beautiful version of you who speaks with absolute confidence, crystal clarity, and true freedom is absolutely not imaginary. That exact version of you is actively being built right now, minute by minute, simple habit by habit, and day by single day. And one day, you will proudly look back at this highly simple routine and deeply realize that these focused 30 minutes did not just magically improve your English. They completely changed your inner confidence. They changed your entire mindset, and they completely changed the way you see yourself. And maybe, in a very beautiful and real way, they completely changed your life.